Hello everyone, this is Dale again, one of the education counselors from Fortress Philippines. For those who were not able to attend the first part of our event, you can check our Facebook Live on our official page, Fortress Education Makati. To continue the open day with North Island College, I would like to introduce to you our guest. We have Junko Leclerc, school representative of NIC. We also have the business discussion with Lynn Mosley. Hello, Lynn and Junko. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you, Dale?
I'm good. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having us. And hi, everyone. My name is Junko Leclerc. I'm the manager of international enrollment and recruitment at North Island College. You probably are tired of seeing my face now, so I'm going to be in the background and I will pass you over to our fantastic instructor, Lynn. We seem to be having a bit of a sound problem. I think Lynn might be muted. Lynn, are you able to unmute yourself? Oh, there you go. Oh, I think you're off mute now.
Yes, I am off mute now. Sorry. My apologies, everyone. I will start over again. So, hello, my name is Lynn Mosley. I'm an instructor at North Island College. I teach marketing and management courses at North Island College. And I'm going to give you a little mini lecture on one of the courses that I teach at North Island College called Consumer Behavior. So I'm going to share with you now some a PowerPoint presentation. So let me see if I can get my screen, share my screen with you. Okay, let me, I will put this. So I'm hoping that you can see my screen right now. And so this is an introduction to consumer behavior. So before I start my lecture, I just want to let you know a little bit about how I'm going to go through the presentation. So in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to present a few slides, and the first 6 slides that I'm going to present is based on just giving you an explanation of a learning objective of how consumer behavior is a process. So I'll explain that concept, and then I will stop the slideshow, and I'm going to ask you a few questions that I want you to think about. And then I'm going to share some more slides. I will be reviewing the second learning objective that I'm hoping to discuss with you, and that is just around how marketers need to understand the wants and the needs of different consumers. And then finally, I've got a little bit of a quiz. I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to ask you to answer, and we'll go through those. So the way I've set up the presentation here is very similar to the way a class would go if you were taking courses with me at North Island College. So I'm going to get started here. So the course is based on a textbook that I'm just highlighting here, and the textbook is called Consumer Behavior, Buying, Having, and Being. So when people study the subject of consumer behavior, they often think that it's a course about making purchases. But consumer behavior is more than just about people making purchases. So today, people have many roles in the marketplace, and we're all consumers, and in that way, we are people with influence. And every day when we're purchasing products, we're making decisions about which products we're going to use, which services we're going to use, and which brands we're going to use. So when you study consumer behavior, what it teaches us is that our gender, our income, our occupation, our lifestyle, and our personality, all of these things have an influence on the purchase decisions we make. The other thing that we learn from consumer behavior is that we study the fact that consumers are part of a community. So we're part of a group of people. And because we're part of groups, when we're purchasing things, we share our opinions about products and we make recommendations about purchases that we make. So consumer behavior, when we think about consumer behavior, it's really the study of the process that's involved when individuals or groups select, purchase, or use products. So it's really that process involved when we make a purchase, and so that we can satisfy our needs and desires. So when I talk about consumer behavior being more than just a process, I'm talking about it being more than just a single purchase. Often when I'm teaching this course, I ask people, what's the difference between a customer and a consumer? So, well, generally speaking, when we talk about somebody who's a customer, we're talking about somebody who makes a single transaction. But if you think of consumer behavior as a process, it involves all of the things that influence a consumer before they purchase something, when they purchase something, and even after they make a purchase. So it's more of a process than just a single transaction. And so as a process, when you think of consumer behavior as a process, you can think of there's two perspectives that you can look at. We can think of what happens to a consumer when they're buying something, and we can think about what happens to the marketer when people are buying their products. So for a consumer, for example, before they buy something, they need to know that they're making the best choice. But for the marketer, they really want to know how people are making the choices and what makes one product better than another. And when you think about when people are making a purchase of a product, people are wondering, is buying this product going to be stressful for me, or is it going to be a pleasant experience? And so the person who's selling that product, what they might want to look at is, if I have nice store displays, and if I make the person comfortable, and if they have a lot of time to make the purchase, is that going to improve the chances that they buy my product? So all along the way, when somebody is making a purchase, there's different issues that come up for both the consumer and the marketer. And so that's why we say that consumer behavior is more of a process. So I want to stop for a second and just get you to think about some of the things that we've just talked about. So one of the things that I would like people to think about is, how do you decide when you need to buy a product? And what is it that makes making a purchase either a pleasant or a stressful experience for you? And when you're using a product, how do you know if the experience you're having is pleasant? If I can I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a second. And sorry, let me see if I can get back to you. So with those questions that I'm asking people, the reason why I ask you this is because I really want you to get an idea of not only this concept of consumer behavior, but how it affects people personally. So I think if you think about how we decide to buy a product, well, for many people, they would probably say that it depends on the product they're buying. You know, in Canada, a lot of Canadians drink coffee. And most people, when they're buying coffee, they already know what brand they're going to buy because they buy coffee all the time. And maybe they buy the brand of coffee that their mother was buying because that's the kind that they always drink. But if you think about buying something that costs a lot of money, like buying a house or buying a car, well, those are kinds of products where it can be either a pleasant or a very stressful experience. So if I'm spending a lot of money, I may find that purchase to be extremely stressful. But if I'm having a celebration and I've spent some money on having a very special celebration, then maybe spending that money and buying that product is going to be a pleasant experience. So with these questions that I'm asking, these are the kind of questions that marketers ask themselves and that they try to answer so that they can understand consumers' behavior. So now I'm just going to go back to my presentation again, and I'd like to share a little bit more of that with you. Okay, so so the next thing what I wanted to say about that is that when we think about consumers and their behavior, marketers know that understanding consumer behavior is good business. And it's good business because it's important when you're marketing products to understand consumers' needs so that we can meet their needs. And so marketers collect data about consumers so that it helps them to define the market. And so that by defining the market, it helps them to understand consumers' behaviors. And when they can understand consumers' behavior, they can kind of predict their behavior in the future, which is what they want to do when they're trying to sell a product. They want to present their product in such a way that it's going to entice people to buy their products. Now, when marketers are looking at consumers, they know it's important to recognize that not everybody wants to buy the same product. So what they do is they try to segment consumers into different groups. So they try to place people in groups and then try to create an appeal or an advertisement that speaks specifically to that one group. Because it's almost impossible to find a product that would satisfy everybody. Because today, more and more, there are so many diverse needs that people have. So marketers an important concept for marketers is to segment their consumers, to put them into different groups. And one of the ways that they segment consumers is through demographics. So demographics are statistics that measure aspects of the population. So they look at people's age, They'll look at their gender, they'll look at their family or their income, and then they would try to sell products to people based on these demographic information. So we know that a single person may purchase different things than a family with 2 young children would purchase. So in that way, it makes the consumer marketing process much more precise for the marketers. Now, there's another aspect of segmenting that marketers look at, and that is around psychographics. And psychographics are a little bit different from demographics in the sense that psychographics attitudes, the way they feel about themselves, the things that they value, and the things that they do in their spare time. So this is another way that marketers try to get to know their customers and try to understand their customers. Because we can say that people that are 20 years old generally use the same products, but when you think about it, there are groups of people that will have very different needs that are of the same age. So in that way, demographics is not quite enough. Marketers need to look at other ways, and that is through psychographics. Now, the final way that I want to talk about that marketers use to study consumer behavior and segment their customers is through relationship marketing. And relationship marketing involves making an effort to interact with customers on a regular basis and giving customers reasons to maintain a bond with the company over time. So one way that they create relationships with consumers is through database marketing. And database marketing is where marketers are tracking consumers' buying habits very closely, and then they try to craft the products and the messages precisely to the people's wants and needs based on this information. So maybe you would get an email or you would get a suggestion from a company that you're working with or from purchasing from with ideas about new products that are coming up or some advertisements or promotions that are coming along the way. So that is another way that marketers can try to learn more about their customers. I want to just stop for a second here, and I see that I'm running a little bit behind in the time, and I want to make sure that that is okay with everybody. I'm just going to go back to the presentation here. So I'm hoping that everything is okay. I have a couple more slides that I just wanted to run through with you. So I think it's okay. If it's okay, I'm just going to carry on with a couple more slides, and then I will open the floor to questions. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen right now with you. So if you will give me a second here. Okay, so the last couple of slides that I just wanted to go through with you here is, so I was saying that marketers, they study consumer behavior so that they can develop relationships and understand their consumers. In today's world, there's another aspect of consumers that we also like to study, and that is virtual consumers. We know that right now we are almost in a revolution in a machine-to-machine communication. We know that in the future, it's not that far away that we're going to have self-driven cars. And we know that artificial intelligence applications are improving the precision of ad placements. In other words, when we're online, we seem to get ads that are speaking precisely to our needs. We also know that computer engineering is moving in the direction where we're going to have robots as companions. So maybe in the future, We'll have robots serving us drinks or robots helping people with disabilities. Now, all of these aspects of our society are very important to marketers, because I think I said earlier in the presentation that one of the things that marketers are trying to do is they're trying to predict the future. And by understanding their consumers, they get an idea of what people are going to do in the future. So trends are not just styles. Trends are a very important aspect of our society, and it gives us some ideas about where we're going in the future. So I wanted to end this presentation with just a few of the trends that that marketers are studying about consumer behaviors. So some of the trends that are happening right now that marketers are studying consumer behavior for, consumer trends, are things like sharing economies, where we are blurring the difference between the producer and the consumer, where people are choosing to rent things, where people are much more interested in individualized and personalized services, and where people are starting to not want to identify themselves as genders, as a specific gender. We're seeing in society that we have much more diversity and multiculturalism in our society, and that when we're shopping for things nowadays, we're reading the online reviews. And so in that way, we're social shopping. We're relying on other people to tell us what we want to buy. We also know that there's a very healthy trend where people want to be physically fit and they want to be environmentally sustainable, where people want simplification, and they worry about data hacking and their life online. So it really is a very interesting time to be studying consumer behavior, and that's why it's a very important part of studying marketing. So that's my presentation in a nutshell. Now, before I end my presentation, I would like to give you a little quiz, and please don't get anxious about this. But in my classes, when I'm lecturing people, I like to ask a few questions just to make sure that people have a good understanding. So I'm going to ask you some questions just for fun, and we'll see how you do. So you don't have to share your answers, but I will run through the questions in this quiz just to give you an idea about what it would be like to be in a course. So here's the first question: true or false? So consumer behavior as a discipline deals mainly with what happens at the point of purchase. So what do you think? Is consumer behavior mainly what happens at the point of purchase? Well, the answer to that question is false, because we know that, as I discussed in the lecture, that consumer behavior is really about what happens before you make a purchase, during the purchase, and after the purchase. Okay, let's try another question. Here's a multiple choice question. In studying consumer behavior, it's often useful to categorize people on the basis of some similarity. Descriptions such as age, gender, income, or occupation are called. So is it A, demographics, B, psychographics, C, personal profiles, or D, physiology? So if you selected A, demographics, you would be correct. And here's the last question that I have for you. Marketers who interact with their customers on a regular basis and not just at the time of purchase are mostly engaged in, would the answer be A, brand loyalty, B, psychographic segmentation, C, market segmentation, or D, relationship marketing? So if you selected D, relationship marketing, you are correct. Okay, well, that is the end of my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing right now, and I will get back. Okay, well, that is the end of my presentation. I hope that you found that useful. If anyone has any questions for me about the course or about the courses that I teach, I would be happy to answer your questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Lynn, for that very informative discussion. So
You're welcome.
we will have a 15-minute break. Check out our Facebook page for the next part. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.